Good morning, guys. I get a question on the channel a lot about what type of path somebody should take in the mechanic field. And I've worked at the independent shops, I've worked at the dealer level, I've worked fleet maintenance, and I've worked, well, I haven't worked for a utility company yet. And I've worked in the union on heavy equipment. They all have their pros and cons. The independent shop, I got to see a volume of different cars all the time, so it was just constant learning. It was never the same thing. The dealer level, I'm getting to see a lot of new vehicles all the time, so whenever other people are struggling, trying to find problems and stuff, I've typically already seen it with the brand new ones. Not all the time. And I feel more confident, when the new ones have problems versus something I haven't seen before, I haven't seen enough of. Um, and then in the construction field, having access to just all types of heavy duty equipment, really, you get that exposure to, bulldozers, semi trucks, dirt separators, dirt pushers, there's all kinds of stuff. Um, there was equipment that I'd never even seen before that some of these guys use in the field that you get a chance to work on. You learn how to make hydraulic lines and all these kinds of things. It's a very, very good experience. I got a boat coming up with music on, so let me pause the phone for right now. Anyway, um, I think the best overall path when it comes to doing the mechanic stuff is probably working for a utility company or a fleet maintenance company. It's it's repetitive. It does get boring sometimes, but you become a specialist in whatever it is that you're working on. There's nothing that you eventually end up, not doing. When I worked for Hertz, I was a diesel mechanic. All the big, what are they, 40 foot, 40, 40, 45 foot buses or whatever, the big CTA style buses, the transit buses. They would use those buses to go to the airport and pick up people at the airport and then drop them off at the rental car companies. And we would have to keep those maintained. You had your A service, your B service, C service, D service, and it all depended on whether or not it was the year for the E service. And each service was something different. We had a guy that was our supervisor, had been in the field for over 40 years. Guy had pretty much seen it all, so I had a great mentor coming in. And the type of stuff that he taught us was pretty cool. It wasn't just regular maintenance stuff. You weren't just pulling wheel hubs and doing brakes and axle seals and slack adjusters. It was to the extent that you were having to make certain lines and stuff like that. If we had the equipment in house, you had to pull apart Thermo King AC motors and stuff like that and redo the brushes and clean off all the contacts and stuff. You didn't just replace stuff like you do today. With him, you rebuilt everything. You had to deadhead compressors to do specific services. To the AC systems are completely different. They're so much more robust with big giant motors driven off pulleys and stuff that um, look like the size of small engines that we use in our generators and things like that. Bigger generators, I should say. It was a really cool job working on the Cummins engines every day, and the electronics, the multiplexing systems that were in these buses, having to learn how to stainless steel weld, and um, just the job overall was phenomenal. It paid great. The benefits were phenomenal, and you never had to worry about not there not being work. There was always something to do. You were always doing. It didn't matter what you were always doing something. And with fleet maintenance, or working for a utility company, you became more personal with the people that were around you. They knew more about you. Um, you weren't as much of a number as you would think, depending on the type of utility company and how large it was. With Hertz being such a large corporation at the time, I think now, last I heard, something about bankruptcy or something like that. Um, the people that were running our facility, they were involved. They knew what was going on with you. They knew uh, what type of life you lived in, stuff like that, and it was more of a family type environment. But the dealership in the independent world is not where it's at. Unfortunately, I've seen too many people come and go. I've seen too many people get involved in the field in general and just end up despising mechanic work because of all the crap that they deal with. The independent world guys seem to be a little bit more free, and they seem to be a little bit less stressed when it comes to dealing with specific BS. But um, because at that point they dictate their own rules and they run the place the way that they want, instead of a manufacturer being involved and trying to tell them what to do and how to do things. And it's one of those things where you got to be careful what career path and choice you make. You can always switch whenever you want. I mean, that's never like a bad thing. But if you can get involved in a utility company like an electrical company or a waterworks company or something like that, or you can be part of a fleet maintenance company or something like Hertz, or you have like semi companies and stuff like that that have small trucking companies that got their own fleet, and all you do is just maintenance those same vehicles every single day. There's stuff to learn too. You get in other situations that you haven't done before, but those are few and far between. So if I had to pick a path uh, and do it all over again, I would probably pick something like utility company maintenance or fleet maintenance. The benefits a lot of times are better. You're less stressed. You know what hours you're working and stuff. There's no guessing stuff. It's typically an hourly wage. There's no flat rate stuff because you're working on their vehicles. There's no reason for you to be flat rate because it's not a service to the public. You're servicing the company vehicles. So it's a different world. It's more of a stable world, if I can say that with it. I think that's correct. I feel like it's a more stable world anyway. So for the young guys that ask me what path that I would suggest that you take, I suggest you try to get into fleet maintenance or work for a utility company. It's just more stable. The hours are there. You're gonna learn stuff, but yet at the same time, you're gonna have enough time to where you can start getting really good at something by doing the same thing over and over again. It is gonna get boring at times, but just realize the type of work you're doing is not cut out for everybody. Not everybody can do what you're doing. So it's just my take on uh, on the mechanic field and where I would go if I was you. I hope this helps somebody. Thank you. Happy 4th, guys. Be blessed.